Now, Joey D'Urso is the investigations writer at the Athletic, which is a relatively new outlet that I absolutely recommend. And he's been keeping quite a close eye on disinformation, on QAnon. And he joins me now just to run us through how the people who believe that the tunnels beneath London and New York are full of trafficked children whose blood George Clooney and Brad Pitt are waiting to drink, and that the coronavirus is part of this epic worldwide conspiracy, Joey. How are they processing the news that the president, who they hold in the highest regard, has actually caught the thing that they've previously argued didn't exist?
Yeah, so, the thing about this is it broke very late at night in America and very early morning here. So most of America is asleep. So I think we haven't really seen...
That's not a figure of speech, is it? That's
no, literally. I mean, it was 1 a.m.
Yes. Yeah.
But there is starting to be conspiracy theories, from some sort of Democrats or liberals are saying, he did terribly in that first debate. Is this some bait and switch so he avoids another one with Joe Biden? But then... with QAnon supporters, you have, I saw a really good tweet from this guy, Mike Rothschild, who reports on this stuff, who says, QAnon believers are giddy that Trump says he has COVID because COVID is fake. So Trump is actually pulling a power move on the deep state who thinks COVID is real because they created it as a power move on Trump. That means Hillary is getting arrested. So he's sort of, sticking two fingers up to this whole COVID scam by supposedly contracting it.
It's hard to know where to go next, isn't it, Joey? Once you've sort of introduced that into the mix. Talk me through the secret message behind the word together in capital letters.
Yeah, so that's to get her, and her is Hillary Clinton. But I think the really important thing about this QAnon is, we talk about eating babies in tunnels or whatever, and virtually everyone would say that is completely mad. But the way that this enters people's consciousness is through much more reasonable things about protecting children, about stopping child abuse, child trafficking, this idea that Donald Trump is against paedophilia and child abuse, which, every decent person is, and every decent person wants to stop child trafficking. So people will see something about stopping child trafficking, parents, just good people all around America, and suddenly get down this rabbit hole where, maybe after several months of looking at more and more weird stuff, they genuinely believe that, Prince Charles is hiding babies in tunnels underneath London. So it's a very sort of insidious process where reasonable people end up believing completely mad things.
Well, like all cults, the entry point is credible or at least plausible, and it is once you're in that the sort of clutches of the cult tighten, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's this hashtag Save Our Children, which of course looks completely innocuous or a very good thing, is actually a gateway to this completely bonkers conspiracy theory.
So if and when it emerges that actually we're not going to see Hillary Clinton arrested in the next fortnight for heading up an international child trafficking ring that delivers the blood of freshly slaughtered children to Prince Charles, Brad Pitt and George Clooney, how do you think they will process that information? Because to continue the cult comparison, it's like giving your life savings to a bloke who told you the world was going to end on September the 19th and waking up on September the 20th, skint but still alive.
Well, this has been happening for years, and this Q, so Q drops these predictions on these message board, 8kun, this obscure message board, and it's sort of it's impossible to prove things false because people just cling on to the extremely tenuous bits that might be true. Like, he talked about a cure several years ago, and people are linking that to coronavirus, but then nothing that disproves it is ever brought up. For this piece which you mentioned, which I wrote for Wired magazine, I looked at a town in Ohio. I picked a town called Canton in northeastern Ohio. I picked it just because it voted for Obama twice and then Trump, so it's a sort of important place. And these days you can't fly to Ohio very easily and vox pop, ask people in the street what they think, but you can join a load of these Facebook groups. And I joined lots of them, just found lots of people are saying, QAnon, sharing pictures of it. And I don't think that's going to go away just when these things don't get disproved. That's not really how this stuff works. It's like any evidence to support it is seized upon, any evidence against it is ignored.
And as you're right, it's we've seen it before. So the idea that there's going to be some mass falling of scales from eyes is patently pie in the sky. Do you have a view, and you may not, on how this is going to impact on the election more broadly?
Well, I just think that, regardless of the result, if Trump wins, he'll have this sort of, army of people behind him who might have strange expectations about what he'll do next, about, battling evil paedophiles who potentially don't exist. And if he loses, there'll be lots of people who want to invalidate the result because they'll think it's a sort of evil stitch-up. And I think that's a real concern that if Trump does lose this election, that a lot of people will be criticising its legitimacy.
Which is what he's encouraging them to do already.
Exactly, which is he has done himself.
Vice President Donald Trump and First Lady, FLOTUS as you know, Melania Trump, have tested positive within the last few minutes. The Vice President, Mike Pence, has tweeted as follows: Karen and I send our love and prayers to our dear friends President Donald Trump and Melania Trump. We join millions across America praying for their full and swift recovery. God bless you, President Trump, and our wonderful First Lady, Melania. Derek Myers is senior reporter for NewsNet in Ohio and joins me now. What's the latest you're hearing, Derek? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we know that this test is one of those rapid tests that they get the results back in about 15 minutes. We know that this all comes after one of the president's top advisors, one of the most senior advisors in the White House, yet to test positive for the virus, Hope Hicks, who's been with the president long before he even started on Celebrity Apprentice. She tested positive. He went into self-quarantine. The First Lady went into quarantine. They took a rapid test. The results came back in 15 minutes that he was positive. They are waiting at the White House for additional blood tests as well as swab tests to find out exactly where and if the president indeed does have this virus. Because it's important to note that these rapid tests do have false positives, so they're remaining to see exactly if the president does indeed have that or if perhaps it was a faulty test. But in the meantime, he and the First Lady are quarantining.
A couple of quick questions, Derek. If it is positive, where would he quarantine? I'm assuming the White House. And what does it mean for the next presidential debate scheduled for around 2 weeks' time?
Right. So the president can quarantine in the White House. I'm sure he would much like to be in Palm Beach at his golf course, but it would be too dangerous for him to travel. He'd have too much exposure to staff and to the pilots and to the Secret Service. So he'll most likely be quarantining at the White House. That is where he's at right now. We know that quarantine lasts about 14 days, and the debate is coming up in just a couple of weeks, the second U.S. presidential debate. We're hoping by then that the president will be out of quarantine. I suspect that he's going to try and get clearance for that. We also know that the president likes dramatics. That's what he's known for. So it's very possible tomorrow he could come out and say that he doesn't have the virus. Even if he really does, we wouldn't be able to believe him because he doesn't tell the truth. But we know that if he does come out and say that, he'll say it's a hoax. You got to understand, the president said from day one that the virus was a hoax.
Yeah.
He's been attending these rallies with thousands of people. He was at one yesterday. He had one planned that's now being canceled for tonight. So it's unknown where the president exactly got the virus, though. Hope Hicks got the virus. And I will make note of this, too. She's the most senior White House official to test positive, but she's not the only White House employee.
Indeed.
The person who delivers the president's food also tested positive some time ago.
We'll leave it there, Derek. Thank you for the full background. You have yourself a good day. Derek Myers, senior reporter for NewsNet, speaking to me from Ohio.